and welcome to the Tavern Chat podcast. I'm your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR, your main proprietor at the Tenkar's Tavern blog, and I guess your host, your bartender supreme at the Tenkar's Tavern Discord server. So, I was right. Magic Missile and Mirror Image is one hell of a rabbit hole. The conversation continues, but now we're looking closer at mirror image, and let's listen to Evil Jeff. He's got a perspective on it. Where I'm going to do a counterpoint on something, but we'll get there in a second. But first, Evil Jeff.
Hey Eric, Evil Jeff with Minions and Musings. Thought I'd throw my hat in on this magic missile thing. Hope you're having a good Easter weekend. Go and visit the in-laws, I believe is what you said. And while I will agree that magic missile will always hit its target, you have to define the target, and the mirror image spell says that any successful hit hits the image, not the spell caster. So while one spell always hits a target, the mirror image spell forces the attack to hit an image, not the spell caster. So I think it's in black and white. And I went through my rule cyclopedia, Beckme, Moldvay, Cook, all of them, and they all say the same thing. Mirror image, you hit the cast, you don't hit the caster, you hit the image. Later.
All right, so Evil Jeff is looking at the basic definition of mirror image from basic, which is 6 turns, 1d4 illusionary duplicates of the caster, and the mirror images look and behave exactly as the caster. Any attack, whether successful or not, on the caster will destroy one of the mirror images. Now, question becomes, is magic missile technically an attack? Is a spell an attack? Well, the spell conjures a glowing dart of energy that the caster may choose to shoot at a visible target within the range. It hits unerringly. No attack roll or saving throw is required. To me, it definitely doesn't say it attacks. If we're gonna pull definitions out of when it says any attack, is magic missile an attack? So let's move on to something that's a little bit interesting. It's the AD&D definition of mirror image. First, it lowers the duration to 2 rounds per level. So third level caster is only going to have it for 6 rounds, not 60 minutes, not 60 rounds, or an hour, for 6 minutes, 6 rounds. When a mirror image spell is cast or invoked, the spellcaster causes 1d4 exact duplicates of himself or herself to come into being around his or her person. These images do exactly what the magic user does, and as the spell causes a blurring and slight distortion when it is affected, it is impossible for opponents to be certain which are the phantasms and which is the actual magic user. When an image is struck by a weapon, magical or otherwise, it disappears, but any other existing images remain intact until struck. This seems to define, at least in AD&D, your magic missile is going to unerringly find your target, disregarding mirror images, because magic missile is definitely not a weapon. It's a spell. Now, these images seem to shift from round to round, so that if the actual magic user is struck during one round, he or she cannot be picked out from amongst his or her images the next. Think about that. So what that's saying is that you have to randomly determine the target that is being struck. So you don't say I'm picking, it's like you got to, if you have 4 images plus the caster, you got a 1 in 5 chance of hitting the caster with your weapon. But it doesn't say spell. It specifically say weapon in AD&D. Obviously, basic doesn't specifically say that, but it does say attack. And my perspective is that an attack would be by a weapon. Interesting, right? This rabbit hole gets deeper and deeper because it is not well defined, and that is why, especially in even my AD&D days, there's a lot of stuff that wasn't well defined, that wasn't cut or dry, that could be interpreted different ways. I think AD&D, if you're going to spell it out, magic missile will unerringly strike its target according to the way it is. Magic mirror image is written in AD&D. In basic, I think again you can argue it either way, but I think that by reading into it that you have to be making an attack, generally speaking, is something that needs an attack roll. All right, that's where they're the attack matrices. Magic missile does not need an attack roll. It strikes unerringly, unless you're playing Holmes. Now, if you were playing with Holmes Basic, I would say yes. Since you need to make an attack roll, you could be targeting the wrong target. And if you happen to not be targeting the right target, if you happen to be targeting an image, you'll disrupt the image. So one less image. But when it strikes unerringly and it doesn't use the attack matrix, my argument would be it is not an attack. It is simply a spell that causes damage. Strikes unerringly, and therefore it will strike its target. But this is a really good conversation, and I'm glad we've got different points of view on it. I'm not saying I'm definitely right, although I would say with AD&D, yeah, in an AD&D situation, it ignores those mirror images. It specifically says weapon, magical or otherwise. But I'm happy to continue this conversation or other spells that you all might think are open to interpretation. I'd like to touch on those too. This is good stuff. Now, this is the night before Easter, and all through the tavern, we're getting ready for family gatherings. Might try to drag my niece into an episode tomorrow. We shall see. She'll be over, and she'll be spending the night tomorrow night. I hope you are all having a blessed, holy day weekend. Got Passover going on. We have Easter. It's a time to be grateful for what we have and to enjoy the company of family and friends. I hope you all do. Tomorrow, I am having an Easter ham catered by my local pub. Woohoo! I am looking forward to it. All right, folks. On that note, as always, stay safe, be well, be healthy. God bless each and every one of you. And I will talk with you all tomorrow. Later, folks.